learning how to train back, I find a lot of people do what we used to do. Like, it was an old mistake that a lot of people did. I mean, we did it for way too long, but we arched our back way too much on our rowing movements and our pull downs, you know. And you got a lot of muscle development out of the hard back training we did, just because the effort was so high and you're overloading. And, you know, you can grow with any sort of movement if you just overload it.
Right.
But efficiency wise, we weren't maximizing our back development. And now you see people training with a much more neutral spine. They're getting much more stretch out of their lats. People think if they, you know, when your back is arched, your lat's not longer. Your lat gets longer as your back straightens, right?
Yeah.
So they're getting proper stretch, proper squeezes, proper activation. You know, when they, you know, the more you arch on a cable row, the more your traps take the weight out behind you, you know?
Right.
And so they're sitting more flat back with almost their head forward a little bit and rowing more. I have a lot of people do a lot of that stuff, and I make them go down to light weights, and I put them on, like, you know, like the homemade T-bar.
Yep.
But with like a straight handle.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'll put them on like the old school T-bar with a straight handle, where and I'll use like the 25-pound plates.
Yeah, they can get all the way in.
Yeah, they can almost touch the floor, and then they just pull it right up to their belt. And I'll try to teach them that movement with like control, when they're opening their back and closing it and keeping their spine flat, and they're not arching back like that.
Yeah.
And they always say the same thing. I'm like, oh my God, I'm sore. Like my fucking back is so pumped. Like, you know, so but learning back is difficult. It's people think they know how to train back. It's like the number one worst body part for most people.
Right. Right. You're speaking specifically in like that low to the mid thoracic lat. Because at that point, you're getting so much upper back retraction. It just,
You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Where they just don't get that bite going on in that upper middle part of the lat. You know what I mean? You know, some exercises are so natural that you can't screw them up, you know, like if you know how to properly do chin-ups and you're able to do them, they should be a great back exercise, you know? I was always terrible at chin-ups. Even when I was light, I swear I had like something wrong with me mechanically. Really? It didn't make any sense. Like how I was so strong at other things and so bad at chin-ups. I was just like, oh, fuck, whatever. I'm just not going to do these.
This is too hard. It's a gymnastic movement.
I mean, I've had a few people say that, and I'm like, you have 28-inch thighs, so it's not going to be the same thing. Like, he's looking at this guy over here. It's like, he has 18-inch thighs. Like, it's a different thing.
Right. Yeah, it was funny. So, you know, just back training, you know, I guess technically there's, you know, I guess 3 or 4 main elbow placements that I would use, you know, like by the side, you know, out elevated, you know, straight down like this, you know, like there's a couple different main elbow placements I put people in, which I try to communicate to them, like, you know, this is what your lat actually does.
Yeah.
You know, this is what your trap actually does. Like, it doesn't do this thing you think it does, it doesn't do, right? You know, so that sort of thing. And that's how I've always thought about training. Like, what does a muscle do? Like, draw a stick man. Like, it pulls this bone, like the pec pulls this bone across the front of your body. That's all it does. You know, internally rotates it. So you have to do that with load. That's all.
Yeah. And I mean, Dorian thought like that.
That's how Dorian thought too.
Yeah.
Like,
but before people were really saying stuff like that.
That's why he didn't believe in like having to switch exercises all the time. He's like, why? That's what your lat does.
Right. It's not like you can come with a new exercise to make the muscle work differently. It seems weird. Yeah. When you say it like that, it's like, no, that's what people are trying to do. They think changing the movement is going to make the muscle work in a different plane of motion. It's like, it doesn't.
No, it's the same movement. Yeah.
You can load it differently. You can get in a different machine maybe, but the muscle function and where it's going, like, you're not changing the connection point. You're not. But if you don't know, you might think like, oh, now if I go to whatever movement, now it's going to work my pec better. Is like,
no, I mean, there's strength curve variations from machine to machine, obviously, but the function is the same. I mean, I remember he just did an interview with Jay Cutler that when he kind of did a small home gym, I think it was even pre-COVID, one of the first machines he bought was a hammer high row, because that's the plane of the lat. It's like a 35, 45 degree pull down. And he loves that machine. And I think that's why I think all the rage now is that cable, like chest support and high row. And I've been doing that with people and myself forever. And you never touch a pull up or a chin up in their life, and they go to do it like 6 weeks later and they PR it by 5 reps. Yeah. There's certain things that, you know, well, I talk about home gyms too, but if you're doing a home gym, there's certain things for your body. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
And I mean, back's one of those body parts, if you're going to have a home gym, it's going to be mostly back and leg machines.
Yes.
No, because like other things, the dumbbell rack, you can do a lot of shoulders and chest and, but if you're going to have to put machines in a home gym, like, hey, you need some back and leg stuff for sure.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Keeping that theme going, when you're talking about keep saying neutral instead of like being hyper arched, do you ever key, like when you go through a workout with someone, bodybuilder, physique, however it's going to be, and you're training them, do you guys start with, because like typically when I start with people doing their auxiliaries for bench or for gymnastics movements, we always start with understanding how to hold a dead bug hold and then doing some type of banded oblique, just because the obliques do tie in to a certain extent with the lower lat.
Right.
Do you start with anything in particular before you even get into a machine, or do you just like go right into it, let's just feel it out?
Yeah, I typically just warm up in the first exercise really, really well. Like I take quite an extensive, I think there's a lot of reps in that first exercise. Also just stretching out the first exercise. Like let's say you're doing back, I'm not just doing a set, standing there doing a set. It's like doing a set, opening up and not stretching like I'm trying to stretch the lats, but moving your body around, like touch your toes and like shoulder rotations, like get moving, like can you move right now? Because I mean there's times where I'm like halfway through my day and I go to pick something up off the ground, I'm like, holy fuck, I'm stiff.
Yeah.
And you think, how did you get halfway through your day without realizing how stiff you were? Like that's how unfrequently we do certain things,
Yeah. Right.
So just make sure, like first exercise, I try to just get the body moving really well. I might do other stuff, like go grab some light dumbbells and do a bunch of stuff, but I'm not like a strategical warm-up guy. But with back's one of those body parts, probably more so than anything, where the first movement is not something I'm primarily focusing on overloading at all. I do kind of think about maximizing pump, blood flow, connection. And that's just because when your lats are super pumped, it's just so much easier to train them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? One of my favorite opening exercise for back is a neutral grip, shoulder width pull downs with the elbows by the sides.
Yeah.
With a pretty neutral spine. Like you're going to arch a little bit, but it's like a real good quality protein or pull down. Know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And supersetted with rope pullovers, like rope pull downs.
Okay.
Just a simple superset for the lats, just to maximize the pump.
Yeah.
And I mean, once your lats are completely engorged and blown up and you go to like dumbbell rows or something.
Oh, you feel
line muscle connections just
instant. Yeah. And I think that's important, especially with back. A lot of people are bad with connection and you can't see it in the mirror, so they can't get those cues. And, a lot of people just have a hard time. So I'd say in that case, it's totally worth giving up starting with barbell rows.
Right. Start with your straight movement. Yeah.
Plus for back, you're like, back's another thing, making true progress on your rowing movements. You got to be very patient with yourself because people can easily add some reps just by being sloppier and your notebook's all fucked up and your whole progression is just nonsense. It's not real. And so you have to be very, very patient. People train back too heavy, I think, for the most part.